Across the stars and the dark corners of space, there was one fear that united every species, every planet, and every empire. It was not war, it was not machines, and it was not fire, it was something far worse, something that looked safe, something that looked like life itself, but brought only death. This fear had a name whispered in every tongue of every known race. They called it Xylium 9. Xylium 9 was a liquid that looked just like water, clear, calm, and cool. It sat in glasses it flowed through pipes. It dripped from nozzles, just like any normal drink. But there was nothing normal about it. No one knew where it came from, not exactly. Some believed it was made in secret labs hidden deep in the black zones. Others said it was found under the crust of a dead star in a forgotten system long ago. It did not matter where it came from. What mattered was what it did. When Xylium 9 touched metal, it burned holes through it. In seconds, it could melt a ship's hull like wax and eat through armor. Like paper, when it touched skin, it boiled flesh and left nothing but bones behind. When it was spilled on soil, the ground screamed for weeks. Some said it poisoned air, made planets unlivable, killed whole forests, and boiled oceans. Entire cities fell in hours just from one small drop. Whole planets were lost, not to war or bombs, but to a few barrels of this death. Water empires were brought to their knees not by laser beams, but by a single silent stream of clear liquid. No one dared to store it for long. Only the bravest or the maddest carried it. Even then, they used special containers strong enough to hold stars, guarded by robots built for one task, only to carry death in liquid form and never let it spill. It was called hydro death by some, liquid fire by others. But one thing was clear: everyone feared it, and no one ever tried to fight with it directly, not unless they wanted to be remembered in screams. Then came the humans. The humans were new to the galactic scene, just a few cycles. And they were small in number, loud in talk, bold in action, but the older races did not take them seriously. They had small ships, weak weapons, and a strange love for danger and jokes. But most of all, they had no fear. They went where others would not. They explored dead moons, broken stations, black holes, and plague zones as if it were a walk in the park. But even they were warned about Xylium 9. Every race, every book, every signal told them, stay away, stay very far away. It was not a toy, not a challenge, not a dare. It was the end in a bottle. At first, humans listened. They heard the tales, they saw the wreckage, they watched the files of burning ships and screaming soldiers. But then something strange happened, something no one expected. It started on a mining colony called Orion Drift 7, a cold, lonely rock floating near a dead sun. The colony had only 40 humans working to extract rare minerals. Nothing fancy, just another quiet place in the void. Then one day, pirates came. The pirates were from the Krell species, tall, strong, and cruel. They attacked with speed and fire. They had one goal: erase the humans and take the colony. They brought lasers, cannons, and one more thing: Xylium 9. The Krell released it into the air system, thinking it would melt the humans in their beds. But the humans did not melt. Instead, they woke up, coughed a little, and turned on the fans, confused, not dead. The Krell increased the dose, this time pumping it through the water pipes again. The humans drank the water again. Nothing happened except for one strange comment from a miner named Riley, who said the water tasted a little spicy today. Now the Krell were scared. They thought maybe it was a mistake, maybe they used the wrong liquid, so they dropped a full tank of Xylium 9 right into the food supply. The humans ate, drank, and burped. One of them even said it made him feel more awake. The Krell were horrified. They turned on their cameras and watched as the humans walked around laughing, talking, and drinking what should have been death. One human even took a clear bottle filled with the liquid and toasted to the camera, then drank it all with a grin. That moment was sent across the stars. Within hours, it reached every corner of the known galaxy. Leaders, generals, scientists, and traders all saw it. Some thought it was fake, others said it was a trick. But soon more videos came out. The humans were not dying from Xylium 9. They were drinking it, they were bathing in it, they were testing it on themselves with wild joy and curiosity. Some even claimed it helped them stay awake longer, work faster, and think sharper. They called it a new energy drink and gave it names like Hydro Buzz and Rocket Water. No one believed it at first, so scientists from other species asked for samples. Humans gave them freely. They were not hiding anything. The results were always the same: death. For others, power. For humans, the news spread faster than light. Humans had not only survived the galaxy's most feared weapon, they had made it part of their diet. They were not scared of it. They loved it. They embraced it like a gift. Xylium 9, once the curse of empires, now sat in human vending machines sold in cans labeled with colorful designs and Names like Liquid Boom and Thunderwater, some humans even added flavors to it, cherry lemon, even chocolate. Other species were shocked, some tried to ban it, others tried to copy the effect, but it never worked. Only humans could take it, only humans could drink it and smile. The galaxy had no answer, it had no words. How could one species take death itself and turn it into fuel? How could they drink what melted armies and call it a pick-me-up? The fear that once united the stars now had a new face. And it was laughing, a human face with a bottle of Hydromax raised high, eyes glowing with joy and teeth showing in a wild grin. Everyone once feared the hydro weapons, now they feared the ones who drank them. The cameras on Orion Drift 7 kept rolling long after the Krell fled in silence, and shame the footage they left behind was shared and saved by every eye that saw it, from the lowest scavenger to the highest emperor, and no one could explain. What they saw every second was a shock, every moment more impossible than the last. A human holding a glass of Xylium 9, lifting it like it was just water, then drinking it with a grin, wiping his mouth, and saying, "Nice kick." His name was Sergeant Arlen Vega. He was not a leader, not a scientist, not even a war hero. He was just a regular colony guard with a loud laugh, a thick beard, and a strange taste for danger. He did not know he was being filmed when he drank that deadly liquid. He just thought it was something spicy from the tap. He even joked that it reminded him of a cheap drink from Earth called Red Rocket. When the footage reached the Galactic Union, emergency alerts were triggered, a full response was ordered, meetings were called at once, and every species sent their best minds to study the footage, to argue, to panic, to guess what it could mean. Some thought it was a trick, some thought it was human madness, others believed it was the beginning of something dark, something they could not stop. But the humans did not stop. They did the opposite. They sent out a public message to the galaxy with the full recording and a caption that said, "Thanks for the drink, signed the folks at Orion Drift 7, with a thumbs up emoji." That message broke the galaxy, not in fire, not in war, but in fear and confusion. Never before had such a dangerous substance been treated like a morning coffee. Never before had a species responded to a chemical weapon with a casual thank you. News channels across the stars ran the footage on loop. The human known as Vega became a symbol not of power, but of unpredictability. Alien analysts studied his blood, his behavior, his history, trying to find something, anything that made him different, but they found nothing. He was just a normal man from Earth with a strange sense of humor and a body that somehow did not melt when filled with liquid. Death within days. Scientists across multiple systems requested samples of Xylium 9. Some wanted to test it, others wanted to destroy it. A few brave or foolish ones wanted to drink it like the humans did. None of them survived. Even in trace amounts, it burned holes in skin and left nothing but smoking labs and warnings. No species could handle it, no system could copy it, only humans on Earth. The story became a sensation. Humans laughed, made jokes, printed shirts with phrases like "drink up" or "hydro is the new soda," and Vega became a celebrity not by choice, but by force. He was given medals he did not want and offers he could not refuse. Companies begged him to sponsor drinks based on his moment of madness, and he agreed only if the drinks tasted good. The first product was called Hydromax, made by a small human company that used the tiniest trace of Xylium 9 mixed with protective compounds. No alien dared try it, but humans lined up for hours. Some said it gave them a buzz, others said it made their eyes glow. No one knew if it was safe, but no one cared. It sold faster than oxygen. Meanwhile, the Krell who had attacked Orion Drift 7 were nowhere to be found. Some claimed they went into hiding, others believed they were hunted. Rumors spread of human teams traveling in silent ships, tracking Krell hideouts, not for revenge, but for testing. They wanted more Xylium 9, and they knew who had it. Back at the Galactic Union, a secret meeting was held with leaders from 7 major species. They watched the footage again in silence, Vega drinking the liquid, burping, and then giving a wink. They paused the video right at the wink and stared. One voice finally spoke. "What do we do if they weaponize it?" Another asked. "What if they already have?" They debated without answers. There were no rules for this, no treaties for drinking poison, no laws for smiling at death and calling it tasty. The humans had done the impossible, not by war, not by science, but by sheer accident, and now the balance of the galaxy was broken. Some species voted to ban all trade with humans, others called for open war. But nothing was agreed. No one wanted to be first to test the humans again, not after what they saw, not after Orion Drift 7. Back on Earth, Vega gave a live interview. The galaxy tuned in. He wore a simple shirt and held a bottle of Hydromax. When asked how it felt to drink Xylium 9, he laughed and said it burned a bit going down, but the energy was worth it. Then he shrugged. and said, "We drink fire, we breathe smoke, we eat spice that can kill rats, nothing new to us, Earth's full of stuff." Like that, his words were translated into 50 languages and played on loop across colonies, ships, and stations. Everyone heard the same thing: humans were used to poison, humans lived with danger, humans did not fear the galaxy because they had already survived worse, and they had. Earth was a planet of storms, quakes, viruses, and beasts. Humans had built homes on fire mountains, lived in freezing poles, and swum in acid lakes. Their bodies had evolved through chaos, their minds shaped by challenge. They were not stronger or smarter, they were simply built different in a way no one could match. As more humans tried small doses of Xylium-9, scientists found strange things. It boosted heart rate, increased focus, improved muscle speed, and enhanced brain activity, but only in humans. Other species reacted with instant failure, their bodies rejecting the liquid at the molecular level. No one understood why, no one could copy it. It was not just biology, it was evolution born from a world that pushed humans every day, and now that same evolution had made them immune to the galaxy's greatest weapon. More companies formed, more products launched: hydro pop, hydro shots, even hydro ice cream. Aliens watched in horror as humans turned fear into flavor, death into drinks, terror into trend. But it did not stop there. Some humans in military labs started testing Xylium-9 in suits, in weapons, and armor. They said, if it could power the body, why not power machines? Why not create exosuits that ran on liquid fire? Why not fly ships that drank poison and spat lightning? The galaxy trembled, not from attacks, but from the sound of humans laughing and building and drinking more and more of what should have been untouchable. And always at the center of it was Vega, the man who drank first, now a symbol, a face, a legend. Some called him the fire drinker, others called him the thirst of Earth. He never liked the names. He said he just wanted a cold drink after a long shift, but history had chosen him. Aliens watched as Vega stood on a stage, opened a new bottle of Hydromax, and raised it high. His words were simple and clear: to those who sent us this gift, thanks again. We loved it, really hit the spot. He drank the whole bottle in one go, then crushed it in his hand and smiled. The message was clear: hydro weapons terrified civilizations, then humans gulped them down. The galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened, how something so deadly, so feared, so untouchable had become part of a human diet, how a single man, Sergeant Arlen Vega, had taken the symbol of death and turned it into a joke, into a brand, into a bottle now sold in vending machines across Earth and Mars, and even a few human colonies on the edge of the Orion sector. What shook the galaxy most was not that humans survived Xylium-9, but that they celebrated it. They held parties where they poured glowing blue shots into tall glasses. They cheered and laughed and danced under banners that read, "Taste the fire, feel the power, drink like Vega." Alien diplomats sent warnings, said it was reckless, said it was dangerous, begged the humans to stop, begged them to ban the substance, begged them to understand the threat. But the humans only replied with test results, graphs showing human heart rates climbing, energy levels rising, blood glowing in scanners, and a new phrase used again and again: "It is safe for us." The Galactic Union could not decide what to do. The vote was split. Some wanted to label Xylium-9 as an illegal weapon, others wanted to study the humans to find out why they were immune. A few said nothing, choosing instead to upgrade their defenses in silence while watching human news broadcasts showing children sipping hydro squeeze during school breaks. One day, everything changed again. It began not on Earth or in a lab, but on a moon station called Helix Outpost 8, where a group of human engineers were trying something new, something no alien would have dared even to imagine. They called it Project Pulse, and it was simple in theory. If Xylium-9 boosted humans, then maybe it could power human machines. Maybe the same energy that melted ships and boiled armies could fuel engines and fly faster than light. Maybe humans could run their tech on death itself. The team was led by a woman named Dr. Celia Morn, a quiet, sharp mind from the European territory on Earth, known for her strange ideas and habit of drinking her own hydro mix with a twist of lemon. She believed that if Vega could survive it, a ship could too, if handled the right way, if filtered through human-built converters with Earth-grown alloys. Maybe, just maybe, Xylium-9 could become the first true universal fuel. They built a test engine called Ember Drive. It was small, barely large enough to push a cargo pod through orbit, but it was ready, it was safe, it had triple fail-safes. It had 12 layers of shielding. It had a human pilot named Lennox who had volunteered after taking Hydromax every day for a month. Without blinking when the day came, alien observers watched from shielded stations far away. They expected fire. They expected screams, they expected the outpost to vanish in blue flames, but it did not. Lennox climbed into the pod, waved once, then flipped the switch. The Ember drive hummed, then roared, then vanished into space, moving faster than any drive of its size had ever moved before. It reappeared seconds later on the far side of the moon, completely unharmed. No explosion, no meltdown, just speed, raw and fast and smooth like nothing ever seen before. The broadcast went viral in less than an hour across every network, every channel, every datapad. The words flashed again and again, powered by Xylium-9. The reaction was chaos. Some species accused humans of playing with forbidden fire. Others praised them as pioneers. Many simply stared, unable to believe what they saw. Death turned into travel, fear turned into fuel. Dar Morn spoke to the galaxy with calm, clear words. We do not fear what you fear. We do not run from power. We learn how to hold it. Suddenly, every human company, every military lab, every tech group wanted a piece of it. Blueprints were shared, patents filed, new ships designed to hold the liquid safely, to use it to fly longer, faster, farther. But it was not just ships on Earth and Mars. A new type of armor was in testing, made with layers that could absorb Xylium-9 and feed it into muscle fibers, gloves that gave soldiers crushing strength, boots that let them leap over tanks, masks that let them breathe in poison zones and keep fighting. The program was called Hydra, and the soldiers in it were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, not because of their guns or size or gear, but because they could walk through places no one else could, places soaked in what should have been death, and come out smiling. Aliens called them ghosts, called them firewalkers, called them madness in human skin. The Hydra teams were trained in silence. Their missions were not public, but stories leaked, whispers of silent raids, of broken enemy bases where no alarms were triggered because the defenses melted before reacting. No screams, no resistance, just blue steam and empty halls. Pirate groups vanished, mercenary fleets disappeared, black market labs stopped answering hails, all traced back to locations rich in Xylium-9, all touched by the hands of humans who drank fire and did not burn. The galaxy panicked again. The Krell, who had once attacked Orion Drift 7, now begged for peace. They offered trade routes, secrets, even tech in exchange for safety. No one laughed at them, now not after what they had seen. Meanwhile, humans kept building, kept drinking, kept smiling. They did not see fear, they saw future. They did not speak of war, they spoke of energy, health, expansion, possibility. New drinks hit the shelves, Hydro Prime, Hydro Glow, even Hydro Ice with glowing flakes floating inside. Kids loved it, athletes swore by it, artists said it helped them think clearer, some claimed it helped them dream brighter dreams. Alien leaders gathered again, this time not in panic, but in something colder, in strategy. If humans could drink what others feared, if they could fly using poison, if they could walk through storms and come out stronger, what did that mean for the balance? What did that mean for peace? And so they watched, they studied, they waited on a quiet day. Sergeant Vega returned to Orion Drift 7, this time not as a guard, but as a guest. He walked through the same hall where he first drank Xylium-9. He smiled at the same broken pipe. He laughed when someone handed him a bottle of Hydromax labeled with his face and the words "Original Fire Drinker." He stood before a crowd of humans and a few brave aliens, all gathered to hear him speak. And his words were simple. We never wanted to scare anyone. We just wanted a drink that worked. The crowd laughed, but the message was clear. This was not about war or power. This was about being human, about finding use in chaos, about turning fear into flavor, danger into fuel, and maybe, just maybe, death into something worth raising a glass to. The galaxy could no longer deny it. Hydro weapons had once terrified civilizations. Now they ran in the veins of those who called Earth home, and Earth was thirsty for more. The galaxy thought it had seen the strangest thing it would ever see when humans drank the unholy liquid called Xylium-9. But what followed was stranger, still more confusing and more terrifying to every alien mind that watched from a distance. Because humans were not only drinking the liquid now, they were studying it, breaking it apart, testing its secrets, and learning how it worked on levels no other race could understand. It began in the human capital labs of Europa Prima, floating city above the frozen moon orbiting Jupiter, where science teams gathered the best minds from Earth, Mars, Titan, and beyond. They called their mission Core Light, and its goal was simple: to discover exactly why humans could consume the liquid that burned through metal and flesh and air without being harmed. At first, they found nothing clear. The molecular structure of Xylium-9 was unstable, violent, chaotic, a nightmare. To every known law of chemistry, it should not have existed, and yet it did. It should have killed humans, and yet it did not. It should have faded when removed from deep vacuum, but it grew stronger instead. Then came a breakthrough. A small team led by Dr. Ishan Rao and Dr. Mina Weller discovered that human DNA had tiny ancient strands dormant for centuries, maybe longer, that reacted when exposed to certain exotic isotopes found inside xylium-9. And not only did they react, they changed, they adapted, they activated like old systems waking up after sleeping. For ages, no one had seen these genetic keys before, not even human researchers, because they only appeared under exact light, under exact conditions, and only when xylium-9 was close, very close. The discovery shocked everyone, and the question became, where did these DNA strands come from? Were they mutations? Were they evolution? Were they something even older? Dr. Weller believed it was more than random chance. She believed Earth itself had shaped humanity to survive extremes, and not just natural ones, but cosmic ones, as if the planet had prepared its children for the galaxy without telling them. And now the test had begun. Alien scientists who were invited to the Corelight project could only watch in disbelief. They ran the same tests on their own species and found no such strands, no hidden code, no dormant genes. Only humans had this spark, this reaction, this ancient link that danced with death and smiled at it. The Union tried to keep it secret, tried to slow the release of the information. But humans shared it freely, posted results on public forums, published videos with colorful charts and jokes titled "Stuff That Makes Us Glow" and "Why My Grandma Could Drink Plasma and Survive." They were not mocking, they were sharing, and that made the galaxy more afraid, because humans were not hiding power, they were inviting others to understand it, and it was clear that only humans could ever truly touch it. Meanwhile, new products rolled out every week: HydroCharge for soldiers, HydroCalm for focus, HydroSleep for recovery, and even HydroSmile for children, a sweet blue drink that glowed gently in the dark and made kids giggle and pretend to breathe fire. But behind the glowing drinks and the smiling faces, something deeper was happening. A shift in the very fabric of power, because now human leaders were receiving quiet messages from species who once mocked them, requests for help, requests for trade, requests for protection. The humans responded not with threats, but with partnership. They offered safe routes, safe formulas, safe training, and above all, respect. They knew what it meant to hold something others feared, and they carried it with humor, but also with care. And yet not all species trusted them. A shadow group within the Galactic Union began moving in secret, collecting stolen samples of xylium-9, trying to find a way to change their own DNA to mimic human reactions. They built dark labs in hidden systems, used clone bodies and black market tech to force the spark, but every test failed. Every subject burned or vanished or screamed until they fell silent. Then something worse happened. One of their stolen labs exploded, not because of xylium-9 itself, but because something inside reacted in a way no one predicted. The energy was too strong, too wild. It ripped through reality like a knife, cutting holes in the fabric of space for just a few seconds, and from those holes things came out, things with no shape, things that whispered, things that reached. With arms made of light and teeth made of cold, they vanished as fast as they came, but the damage was done. The stars near the lab pulsed differently, and ships nearby began reporting strange sounds over comms, voices that did not speak any language, but still made sense. Humans investigated, and when they saw the readings, they knew something was wrong, very wrong. Dr. Weller and Dr. Rao returned to Europa Prime and locked down all high-level research. They warned that xylium-9 was more than a liquid, more than a weapon, more than a tool. It was a door, and the key was human, but the lock led somewhere else, somewhere not meant to be open. The Union was split again. Some wanted to ban all research, others wanted to double it. Some blamed the humans, others blamed the shadows, but none could ignore the truth anymore. Xylium-9 was not just reacting to humans, it was calling to them back on Earth. People started having dreams, bright ones filled with sound and color, with symbols they could not read, but somehow understood. They dreamed of stars shaped like hands and rivers of fire that sang songs, and towers floating upside down in skies with no end. At first it was rare, then it became common, then it became daily. Dream journals flooded the net. People wrote about the same visions, even when living thousands of kilometers apart. They saw the same gates, the same lights, the same question written in flame: "Are you ready?" Dr. Weller believed the DNA reaction was not just biological. But mental spiritual dimensional, she said humans were not just immune to xylium-9, they were made for it, grown like seeds waiting for the right soil, and now they had found it. She warned the world that pushing further could open more doors, and not all doors led to light, but the Hydra Corps had already begun trials on psychic link testing using xylium-9 to boost neural signals, create faster communication between soldiers, let them feel each other, hear each other, think together, and it worked too. Well, sometimes they shared dreams, they finished each other's sentences, they acted as one. Aliens watched in silence, afraid to speak, afraid to blink, afraid that if they said the wrong word, they would be noticed by the blue fire that now danced in every human hand. Then came the message from Vega, again older, now wiser, no longer a joke, no longer a face on a bottle. He spoke from a station floating above Neptune, his face calm, his voice steady. We have seen what you fear, we have touched what you hide, we have walked through poison and called it water. We are not better, we are not gods, we are just human. But if this liquid was meant to test us, then we passed. He paused, then smiled and said, now, we want to know what comes next. The galaxy waited, held its breath, feared the answer, because for the first time ever they were not afraid of the humans, they were afraid of what the humans might awaken and still in the hearts of the bold, in the broken, and the brave. The words echoed. Again, hydro weapons terrified civilizations, then humans gulped them down, and now they wanted more. The Galactic Union had seen wars that broke planets, alliances that fell apart under the weight of fear, and power weapons that erased moons and storms that cracked stars, but they had never seen anything like this, never seen a species that could drink death and ask for seconds, never seen joy mixed with danger, celebration mixed with chaos, laughter mixed with power. The humans were not marching with armies, they were not threatening with fleets, they were simply growing stronger in silence. In smiles and drinks shared on rooftops and labs, glowing softly with blue bottles stacked high and labeled with names that felt more like jokes than warnings. Aliens had words for this feeling. They called it the soft fear, the creeping dread, the storm behind the calm, because no one knew what the humans would do next. No one could guess how far they would go. And yet the humans kept moving forward, not like conquerors, but like explorers, like children who had just discovered fire and wanted to see what else it could do. It began on a mining colony deep in the astrobelt, a place called Rift 12, known for heavy storms and unstable terrain. Only humans mined there. Others said it was cursed, said the winds whispered too loud, said machines broke for no reason, but humans did not care. They built shelters into rock, dug with hands and lasers, and played music loud enough to drown out the wind. Then came the signal, a reading unlike any before, a spike in energy, a pulse that made scanners scream, and for a moment made time feel like it twisted, like the sky blinked, like the ground breathed. It came from deep below, deeper than the drills had ever reached, and when they sent a drone down, it melted before it could even send a full picture. Only one frame survived, a flash of blue and a shape not quite round, not quite sharp. They called it a heart. Hydra Corps arrived within a day, bringing scientists, soldiers, dream watchers, and a single sealed case of pure xylium-9, as if the presence of the liquid would speak to whatever waited below. Among them was Captain June Alaris, known for surviving 3 void storms and once walking through a collapsing ship just to save a crew of engineers who had fallen behind. He was quiet, strong, and carried a small glass bottle of Hydromax wherever he went, sipping it like others sipped tea, led the descent personally, wearing new armor called Hydra Skin, a suit laced with xylium, veins glowing softly with every heartbeat. It was not tested. Not fully, but he trusted it and trusted the humans who made it. As he stepped into the dark pit, the world held its breath. What he found was not a creature, not a weapon, not a trap. It was a door made of no metal, no rock, no code. It shimmered like a liquid mirror, held in place by threads of pure light, pulsing in rhythm with his own pulse, as if waiting for him, as if hearing him. He reached out and touched it, and the door opened. What lay beyond was not fire, not void, not madness. It was memory, not his own, but someone's older, deeper, the memory of a world that burned itself into ash, then became xylium-9, the memory of beings that drank stars and fell into silence, the memory of hands like light reaching for something more, but failing and leaving behind one gift, one last test, one seed waiting for the right soil. When Alaris awoke, he was still standing, his suit untouched, his heart still beating, but now glowing gently with a light that moved like breath. He spoke only one word. It knows. The scientists recorded his vitals, his words, his dreams, but could not explain the change. His strength was greater, his reaction time faster, his mind sharper, but not wild, not dangerous, instead calm, precise, focused, as if the door had shown him something and given him a piece of it. They called it the echo effect, and it began to appear in others who stood near the door for too long, not deadly, not painful, but clear, a shift, a gentle tilt of thought, as if part of the liquid had begun whispering back, not to hurt, not to harm, but to share. The news spread fast. Some called it a gift, others a curse. Debates filled the halls of the Union. Should humans be allowed to continue? Should the door be sealed, destroyed, forgotten, or studied? But before a decision could be made, the dreams began again, this time across all human colonies, not just on Earth or Mars or Europa, but even on outposts in deep space, frozen ships lost and found again, stations once abandoned and now filled with new life. The dreams were the same: gates, rivers, towers, songs, lights, and one word repeating, not in sound, but in thought together. It was not a command, not a question, not a warning, just a feeling, a hope, a whisper in the dark. And slowly the fear began to change. Aliens who lived near humans began to report lower stress, better health, clearer thoughts when drinking recycled water near xylem-powered systems. A few brave ones even tried drops of diluted formulas and survived. Not just survived, but smiled, not like humans, but closed. Doctors were confused, researchers shocked. No one understood how or why. Dr. Rao returned to the rift to study the door, and what he found was impossible. The material was alive, not in body, but in code. It responded to human voices, to music, to laughter. And when he played an old Earth song from centuries ago, the door pulsed, once like a heartbeat. Vega visited, not as a soldier, not as a speaker, just as a man holding a bottle with his own face on it. He stood before the door, placed the bottle down, and said, "I do not know what you are, but thank you." And the door opened again, just a little, just enough to show a light, too warm to fear, too far to reach. The Union met again, and for the first time the room was quiet, not with fear, not with hate, but with awe, with confusion, with something almost like hope. They asked themselves, what if Xylem 9 was never meant to destroy? What if it only destroyed because it was misunderstood? What if it waited for those who would see, not with fear, but with wonder? And only humans ever did. The vote was close, but the result was clear. Humanity would continue, not unchecked, but not block. The rift would remain open, watched, studied, protected, and maybe one day walked through fully. The Hydra Corps began new training, not for war, but for peace, using Xylem 9 to heal, to build, to grow. Their armor now came in colors soft and warm, their missions to places long abandoned, bringing light and calm. The liquid that once melted armies now powered dreams, now whispered, not threats, but possibilities. Now flowed, not in fear, but in hope. And in every home, every lab, every quiet moment, someone somewhere raised a glass and remembered hydro weapons terrified civilizations. Then humans gulped them down, and now they listened. The galaxy changed slowly, at first with whispers and doubts and strange reports that were ignored by many, but not for long, because humans were not just drinking Xylem 9 anymore. They were understanding it, shaping it, listening to it, and some said even speaking back. Every human colony now had at least one Xylem hub, a station built to store, refine, and monitor the liquid, not just as fuel or weapon, but as energy for farms, hospitals, schools, and even homes. The liquid flowed in small pipes, glowing softly in walls and floors, warming rooms, lighting streets, and healing wounds. It was not just science anymore. It was life in the stars above Mars. A new ship launched. It was called the Lumen Tide, the first vessel built entirely with Xylem 9 integration. Every system, every circuit, every wall laced with smart fluid that reacted to its crew, learned from them, protected them, and some believed, even dreamed with them. The captain of the Lumen Tide was Ilya Vorn, once a scout pilot, now a symbol of the new path, not a warrior, not a scientist, but a listener, someone who had sat near the rift for 6 nights without moving and returned with a voice more calm than silence itself. She wore no weapons, only a suit lined with threads of blue that shimmered when she breathed. The Lumen Tide set its course for a system marked long ago as lost, a system once closed by the Union after a disaster that erased 3 moons and warped the light around it. Some said it was cursed, others said it was a wound in space itself, but the humans called it a question, and questions must be answered. They arrived in silence, with no guns raised, no shields armed, just scanners, songs, and thoughts shared across neural links powered by the fluid that once melted fleets. What they found was not ruin, not death, but something sleeping, a planet wrapped in clouds of crystal, with towers poking through like fingers reaching for warmth, strange symbols carved in the ground, pulsing weakly as if waiting For someone to see them, the crew stepped onto the surface, and the ground did not shake, did not burn. It welcomed them with a hum that matched their heartbeats. And when Ilya touched one of the towers, it sang not with sound, but with memory of flash, of stars falling upward, rivers running backward, and laughter that echoed in every direction. The tower awoke. It sent a beam into the sky, and the sky blinked. The clouds parted slowly, revealing a city frozen in mid-motion, as if time had paused. As if the world had held its breath for one last moment. The Union watched from afar, unable to understand, unwilling to move. They feared another war, another wave, another mistake. But none came, only light, soft and endless. Back on Earth, dreams changed. Again, now filled with voices that spoke not in words, but in shapes, colors, feelings that could not be translated, only felt, and more humans began to hear them, not just in sleep, but while awake, when touching water, when closing eyes, when listening. To win, some feared it, called, others feared it, chose. Dr. Weller returned to Europa Prime with a new theory, not of energy or DNA, but of connection. She believed that Xylium-9 was not a weapon at all, but a form of ancient language left behind by beings who no longer walked, who no longer breathed, but still remembered, still hoped that one day someone would understand their message. And humanity had replied, not with fire, not with fear, but with laughter and thirst. The Hydra Corps now called themselves the Lumen Guard, their armor softer, their missions brighter, their goal not to conquer, but to reach lost places, broken places, silent places. They traveled in small teams, carrying bottles not of poison, but of peace, using Xylium-9 to wake sleeping machines, unlock sealed archives, restore gardens that had not seen sun in centuries. And everywhere they went, the stars whispered louder. Aliens began to join them, carefully, one by one, those who had lived near humans long enough to feel the change, those who had seen friends healed by the blue light, those who had dreamed of rivers too wide to cross, and now saw bridges made of sound and memory. They called themselves the Echoborn, and they did not drink Xylium-9, but they touched it. They learned from it. They meditated near it, and sometimes when the wind was just right, they too could hear the door within themselves creak open just enough to let light through. Not all were pleased. A faction within the Union, known as the Crimson Shield, declared the rise of the Echoborn as unnatural, called the spread of Xylium-9 a silent invasion, demanded control or destruction of every human lab, every Lumen Guard team, every rift gate. They saw not hope, but danger, not unity, but infection. They sent warnings, they sent ships, they sent silence before the storm. Humanity answered with no threats, no shields. They sent only a message: you fear what you do not understand. Let us help you understand. And attached to the message was a file of vision, recorded by Ilya Vorn herself, of the tower on the crystal world as it unfolded like a flower of glass, showing a memory of beings made of light, building stars, planting songs into gravity, and laughing like wind on water. The Crimson Shield paused, not in belief, but in doubt, because something in the vision felt real, felt too beautiful to fake, too raw to deny. The Lumen Tide returned from the crystal world, carrying artifacts made of light and thought and memory, objects that hummed softly when near, humans that sang louder when placed in Xylium-9, that told stories without voice, only feeling. One artifact pulsed slowly when held by Vega himself, who had come not to fight, not to lead, but to see. He touched it, and his eyes filled with tears. Not of pain, not of joy, but of understanding, of something larger than fire, larger than war, something that had waited longer than time. He said no words, only nodded, and placed the artifact into a pool of Xylium-9, where it dissolved into sparks and was gone. The galaxy stood on the edge of something, not war, not peace, something new, something undefined, something alive. Children born near Xylium hubs grew, with dreams brighter than their parents, clearer, faster, more connected. They solved puzzles before they could walk, they painted stars, they sang in tones that matched the rift itself. They were called the Brightborn, and though they were still humans, still flesh and blood, their eyes glowed gently in the dark. And when they touched the towers, or the artifacts, or even the dreams themselves, the sky answered back with colors not yet named. And always in the distance, across stars and silence, the old truth remained: hydro weapons terrified civilizations. Then humans gulped them down, and now the universe was waking up. The universe had shifted, not in an explosion, not in a scream, but in the way a tide moves, slow, powerful, unstoppable. And those who had watched from shadows now stepped forward, drawn by the silence between words and the glow of understanding that pulsed from every human touch. To Xylium-9 they were old, not in age, but in weight, ancient species who had once ruled who had once created and destroyed without regret, now returning to see if the stories were true, if the small, loud, strange creatures from Earth had truly changed the meaning of a weapon born from chaos. One of them arrived at the edge of soul, unseen by most, wrapped in layers of light that bent around it like a whisper. It called itself Vexharn, a being from the inner spiral, a place forgotten even by time, and it moved not with ships, but with thought, using gravity as wings and dreams as fuel. It did not speak in sound, it spoke in pressure and memory. And when it reached Earth, it did not land, it hovered near the moon and released a pulse into space that touched every xylium hub, every lumen guard beacon, every bright-born heart, and waited. Humanity listened not with fear, but with hope, because by now they had learned that fear was a door, not a wall, and that answers often came. Dressed as riddles, Vega was the first to answer, not with weapons, but with an invitation. He sent a drone built with xylium-9 shaped into spirals and song loops, and attached to it a message written in over 50 languages, both human and alien, and one that was entirely emotion, crafted by the Brightborn themselves using only color and rhythm. The drone reached Vexharn and was absorbed gently like a raindrop into a lake, and then the moon began to hum, not loudly, not sharply, but deep and low, like a heartbeat beneath stone, and those who were close enough could feel their bones vibrate in tune with something older than gravity. Vexharn replied not with words, but with images, stars collapsing into roses, rivers flowing into mind's hands, reaching across light, and most clearly a vision of Earth, not destroyed, not invaded, but held gently, as if an awe. Dr. Weller studied the signals from orbit, her fingers dancing across glowing keys made from living metal, and she smiled, not in victory, but in awe. She whispered that the message was clear. Vexharn was not a threat, it was a test, and humanity had not failed. The Union watched with nervous silence. The Crimson Shield had split half, had disbanded, seeing no war to fight, no monster to kill, while the other half had gone silent, retreating into systems now dark to prepare for what they still feared would come on Mars. A new temple was built, not of worship, but of memory, a place where humans and Echoborn and other species could walk and see and touch the artifacts brought from the rift, from the towers, from the dreams, each glowing softly, each telling a story in silence. Children ran through the halls laughing as they passed murals that moved when watched and whispered when touched, their voices filled with questions and their hearts with songs passed down not by blood but by light. And in the heart of the temple a new pool of xylium-9 was formed, not harvested, not refined, simply present, raw and quiet. It shimmered with images of things yet to be, and when the Brightborn stood near it, the pool shifted, as if listening, as if waiting. Leah Vorn returned from her voyage not alone, but with a new ship, not made by humans, not made by anyone living. It had grown in the light of the rift, shaped by music and memory, and it answered only to her mind, only to her calm, her breath, her thought. She called it the Wave Whisper, and when it hovered above Earth, clouds moved aside, birds flew in spirals, and even oceans seemed to listen to its hum. With her return came a new phase, a decision made not by leaders, not by councils, but by consensus from dreams shared across the stars. The humans would build a gate, not just to travel, but to connect, a gate not to move ships, but to move ideas, a portal that pulsed with xylium-9 at its core, fed by understanding, not control. It would open to the crystal world and beyond, to places locked away by fear and time, to civilizations that had forgotten how to speak, and to beings that had never known how to listen. Construction began not in secret, not in silence, but in celebration. Every piece of the gate a story, every layer a song, and as it grew, so did the dreams. Brightborn children began drawing symbols, never taught, symbols that matched carvings found in forgotten ruins across distant moons, and when asked how they knew, they simply smiled and said the water told them. On the day the gate activated, every screen, every surface, every reflective pool on Earth and beyond flickered with an image of a hand reaching out and another slowly meeting it in return, and the message echoed in every heart, not in sound, not in thought, but in certainty. You are not alone. The gate pulsed once and opened, not like a door, but like an eye, and beyond it was not just space, but memory, stars made of thought, and roads paved in stories, and from within stepped shapes, both new and familiar, beings once lost, now drawn to the light that humanity had sparked from the weapon they once feared. One creature tall as a tree, made of threads of gold, reached out to Ilya and pressed its hand to hers, and a ripple flowed outward, touching every xylium stream, every rift gate, every dreaming child. And for a moment, the entire galaxy breathed. As one, no war came, no conquest, no surrender, only a new map written in dreams, shared across minds no longer strangers. And so it began, the age of Echo, an era not ruled by kings or guns, but by bridges built from questions and wells filled with wonder where. Xylium 9 flowed not as fire, but as story, and every world once silenced by war now hummed with the voices of children and stars alike, where the most powerful weapon ever made was transformed by thirst into a doorway, and where the smallest voice could wake the oldest light. This was not the end of the story, this was the beginning.